Who are the standout rosters after week 1 in the CDL? Are the Minnesota Rokkr actually 2-0? Are Surge facing extreme regression? And who can beat the breach? All the answers to these questions and more are coming up on this week's episode of The Money Hill, of course presented by the Best of 3 Network. I'm your host, Scoot. I'm back with Nikita. No Chris, unfortunately, this week, but how we doing today, lad?
Doing great. Swapped out with Mr. B&B. You know, he was there last week. I wasn't able to make it, was dealing with a bad case of the flu. So we decided to swap around. Exciting week 1. I think some of my preseason calls and confidence has been shaken in one or two teams, but I'm definitely excited about others.
It was a really, really, interesting start to the weekend. Of course, you get your stream delays, typical CDL stuff, and then you get Optic forfeiting a map.
What a joke.
Actually, a match. We can just jump straight into that. Let's go straight into the thing that everybody wants to hear about, which is Minnesota Rokkr, Optic Texas, play first day, right? You get a great series going. Minnesota Rokkr, I've projected them pretty highly preseason, but it ends in an Optic Texas forfeit over a control situation, which I think a lot of people would say statistically coming out of that, there's almost no chance that Optic lose that map and lose the game, but it is all over the place. I want to hear your thoughts before I jump into it. I know I'm biased, of course.
The better team won. That's all there is to it, ultimately. And if Optic are going to whine and bitch about this, it looked like they were in a better position, but then if they're that confident, they should be happy to replay round 5. They weren't, and I think they knew if they replay, they lose, and they lose the next one, and that's why they forfeited, because it kind of evades the question that the team just looks subpar.
That is a crazy statement out of you. That's insane.
I am trying to trigger you so hard,
I know you
and
are.
your face was so good. I think it was complete bullshit, straight up. It's just a dumb take by the CDL. It was so clearly an Optic match. The fact is, there's some common sense. When your game is broken, which it is every single year, you need to have some common sense situations where you can look at this and be very clear that Optic was winning that game. That's it. Well, they were winning that game.
Okay, you got 3 people on the point. You've got a guy who ends up standing still for 5 seconds due to a broken score streak. That's the context here for everyone that's not familiar.
I think it was
Here's
7,
the problem with what happened, with him going AFK essentially, or having a connection, whatever the situation is with the score streak. The SAE is G8. So that adds a whole nother level to this. You're calling it a score streak that you can't even use in the first place. Yeah. So now you have a league that needs to come to terms with, GAs exist, which they already failed to acknowledge, on a wide scale, instead of just banning stuff from the game. Just ban things. Just go to the players and
straight up,
hey, we don't want this gun in the game. Yeah. You're not allowed to use it. Hey, we don't want this score streak. You're not allowed to use it. Then you don't have to tiptoe around on the broadcast. And you don't have this shit happening in game. They wouldn't even be able to set it. And then Optic are already in position to pretty much win the control. And from there they forfeit the rest of the game because they think the decision's bullshit.
And that's the way it should be done. And to be fair, if I was Optic and I started losing the next game, I'd just call an SAE and be I guess we need to replay the whole thing, right? Put CDL in that position. And of course they won't, because the CDL will freak
They'll find
out.
the shit out of them.
They'll find the shit out of them, but for what? It's just disappointing, because it was so clearly, I understand, if it starts at the beginning and that happens, maybe. But this was so clearly a situation where Rokkr had lost it.
Well, I think we legitimately had a good series on our hand, too. And that's, I feel robbed of that as a viewer, one. Yeah. But, listen, I promised people answers at the top of the hour, right? So, are Minnesota Rokkr, in your eyes, actually 2-0? What are you coming to terms with here? I mean, on the paper,
neither of them. To me, it's a void. It's a void on both sides. And I know this is a lukewarm, not a hot take here. I think Rokkr looked good. When I look over the weekend, I think the Rokkr looked good, and I agree with your statement, hey, this could be a top 4 team. I also maintain that I am not... I think Optic are a top 4, top 5 team. I'm just not sure they're a top 2 team. I know you think they're number 1 number 2 place team.
They're sick right now, first of all, allegedly, going into that second match. They said the vibes were completely off after the Rokkr match, all this stuff. They've had a lot of people sick. Obviously, they're the better team in control. I think, I don't really know how hardpoint shakes out. Now on the scoreline, you have a 250-0 result, which is really interesting to see. First ever 250-0 in CDL history.
Just built different.
Yeah, I'm happy to see Rokkr playing as well as they did and being 2-0. It is going to be interesting, though, because they have ignited this fire of now you have the green wall monkey on your back all year.
Yes.
they are going to be hated for the rest of the year. It goes without saying. And Optic fans are notoriously fairly toxic to opponents.
I think the part of the issues, I look at it, and I saw Rokkr play against Outtro and do really well against them.
Yeah.
And I think Outtro are a much better team. I think we agree Outtro are a much better team than Mutineers. So when I see Optic going 3-0 against Mutineers, like, I don't draw that much from it.
No,
so
and they did
when
what
I look
needed
at
to be
it,
done.
I think both of these teams are 1-0. That's the way I view it. But
Fair.
realistically, could when you say are the Rokkr a 2-0 team? Yeah, they could be. But could you also argue that Optic are a 2-0 team? I totally can see that as well.
Yeah.
Because I'm not convinced that it's an Optic 3-1 sweep.
I agree with that. I think it's a more likely scenario than Rokkr 3-1, but
Oh yeah, I 100%.
Well, it's almost impossible.
I think it's a
because they
5-game
would've
series.
won
I think we
yeah.
go down to S&D 5-game series. I wouldn't be surprised if that takes us to like around 10, 11.
God, I would have loved to see that S&D too. These are two
so
rosters
good.
that I really wanted. Like I need to see S&D from too.
I know. So that's my take.
Let's get into our actual 2-0 teams here. Boston Breach, London Royal Ravens. One of these is much more of a statement than the other. And it's a team that I had, again, in a gatekeeper position. Boston Breach's 2-0 looks really good coming off the start. Like, they recomped their roster in the offseason. Method's playing out of his mind to start the season, and they come out and they beat, perennial world beaters Atlanta Faze 3-1 off rip. They just
like
took
a
it
dominant
straight to
win.
them.
Like, that was a good win. It was a good win.
Unbelievable.
And look,
they
love it.
Surge, too.
I said I thought Breach would just look way better adding Awakening in, and this is the Awakening we've been hearing about and like kind of we never saw in the Mutineers. I'm like thrilled by it. The team is just looking like all around like great teamwork. Just great teamwork, vibing and hitting the points and hitting their shots. This is a legit 2-0. And you know what? Looking at their week ahead of them, I think they've got another 2-0 coming up.
I mean, you gotta deal with Awakening, Methods, and Nero flying at your face, and then you don't know where Vivid is half the time because he's sneaking around the map, and then he's behind you, shot in the back. Good night, your rotation's over. But I mean, dominant across the board. They dominated Seattle Surge too. Like it was clearly decisive there. The other 2-0 team on our docket, and one that I think they've gotten away with a little bit of record or like a little scheduling stuff here, but London Royal Ravens, they go up 3-0 Subliners, rough weekend for them, to say the least. And then they 3-2 Gorillas in what I will say was an extremely fun series to watch. But I think this 2-0 is a little bit, shaky. Obviously, 2-0, credit to you. But, the Gorillas win doesn't give me a ton of confidence going 5. I think they're going to have a lot of trouble with top-tier teams.
You were more bullish on Gorillas than I was. I think the Gorillas are...
Whoa. I had them at 9, and you had them at 8. We're similar here. All right?
Then what did we...
I had Ravens at 8. You had them at 11, which I think is still not a bad prediction. We could still end up down there.
Watching Gorillas, I'll drop them to 9. I just think it's like our cities in hell. I think you were... you know what? I think you were more bullish on Hook, and I was like, he's just so inconsistent. I don't know what's going to happen there. I agree with you. I think Ravens had a soft schedule start of the week. I expect them to go... This week is it a 1-1? It might be another 2, might be 0-2. It really depends on how the Surge bounced back from their abysmal week 1. Now, I was really bullish on the Surge, and I said it. I didn't disagree with the weaknesses on their side, but I just said their weaknesses just need to go even. We don't need Mac and all that to carry the world. Just go even. Just do your job and let the other two carry the shit out of you. And just abysmal. Well, I think Robert posted the stat line, and it's Sib and Pred look incredible. And on the other side, Mac and accuracy just I don't know what they're doing.
I mean, we're jumping on Surge here. We're kind of throwing the London conversation out of the window. Soft schedule there. Agree with you on all your points. I think it is important to jump into Surge, and it's one team that I really wanted to talk about this week. Are they facing the regression that was projected at the beginning of the season? I had them at 6th. I think I stand by that even more now. I would argue maybe further down.
I was going to say it's further. To me, it's further. Because with Breach looking so good, if London is actually, let's say, a playoff contender team on that 8, you start to push people down. And
so, I mean, I think Sib went plus 40 in their series against LAG, which is out of this world stats. And one thing that I've seen brought up is that this is going to be a heavily team-based game. And not only him, but if you look across the board, like pretty much everyone's slaying. Mac has a 0.78, but everybody else is above a 1, and then you have Sib at a 2.03, which might be the highest KD that anyone's put up in a series ever. Doesn't matter. You lost. You look across the Gorillas roster, they outslayed the shit out of them. It's not even close. And to lose that series is unbelievable. Like,
I don't know how.
It's unacceptable.
I actually wonder how much time did LAG spend on respawn, like dead, and yet they still took the win. And that, I think that is the problem. Is like, if accuracy and Mac are not going to deliver when you have the slaying power behind you and you're not doing your job, Surge can't win. Well, and that's it. And I'll reiterate it. I don't need accuracy and Mac to become gods. I just need them to do their job.
But are we going to see this all year because it's a more team-based game? Well, that's my problem. Like, are we?
They have one major. I'll give them more. This is week 1. New game.
I'll give them a whole major. I agree with you.
Give them a major. If they cannot come out and like play in a stable manner, cut them.
But I mean, did LAG even think about hardpoint? They didn't score enough hardpoint points in that series to win a single map by score.
Yeah, I know.
Like, they did not get 250 across the entire series, which is astounding to lose that.
That was
like you just win your fucking control, even if you're bad at Surge. I don't know. Like, it seems easy enough. All right. Finally, I think, 2 teams that matched up end of the weekend. Little takeaway from both. Atlanta Faze end up 3-2ing LA Thieves. It was a series that everybody wanted to see, a rematch from the grand finals last year. Faze come out on top after a tough loss to Breach to start off the weekend, and I think they looked good in doing so, but I also think that Thieves looked good. Like, it's not easy to take a lot away from this because they did go 5, but it still looks like both teams are going to be top tier competitors, and they're going to compete with each other all year. Like, this is going to be a showdown that we're going to see a lot.
I took away this was an important win for FaZe after their loss to Breach. I think they needed something along those lines, like get a bit of that momentum going. The S&D was not, it ended up 6-3?
Yeah, 6-3 final map, but 6-5 in the second.
So it was pretty, I think, decisive. In that game 5 was definitely in FaZe's court, and they had the momentum. They got that lead, and then they just closed it out, and they never really gave the Thieves a chance to come back in. I don't have a strong opinion or read on this. It just looked like 2 good teams, and one team came out ahead. I need. Is this really a regression from Thieves? Is Thieves having a bit of jitters? Was this a really good week for FaZe? Because the Boston, the problem, any
Breach
benefits,
beat them 3-1. That's the issue.
Well, that's my point. So that's my issue. So anything they get for beating Thieves, they kind of lose for losing to the Breach.
Right off the rip, too. Like, that's the thing that was burned into people's mind is you got dominated by Breach.
Yeah.
Like, what the hell?
And then, so they're going to come back, and they're going to come back with a bit of vengeance. So are we saying that the Thieves got beaten by basically a team that was just angry that they lost to Breach, and they were maybe a bit complacent? So I don't want to read into this too much. It was a good series. I think, like you said, both teams are still good. That's that.
It felt like a typical Atlanta Faze loses a series. They come back. They're snapping. They're extremely angry. And for Thieves to play up to that level, I think is encouraging to see because it's not every week that you're going to get a FaZe team that has just lost that's firing on all cylinders.
That is
like their worst player was Simp that series, and everybody else is positive on their roster. Like they looked really good.
They put up some ridiculous stat lines.
I mean, Cell's putting up a ridiculous stat line every time. 1.52. Like, that's absurd. That's out of this world. Any final standout rosters that you came away from the weekend, you're like, okay, this team's better than I expected, or worse? I just name them off if you have any. But I think
better. No, we've covered all the better ones. I think it's not necessarily worse, but like meets expectations is Subliners and Outtro. I don't think either team are good.
Ultra starting off 0-2 is not, or sorry, 1-1 is something that a lot of people
Subliners are just, I think we were talking about this, I think a poorly constructed roster. They are not built in a way that enables Hydra. He looks phenomenal. Priester does not look great. And I think just the way that, and you make this point and I agree with it, is that the way Hydra plays, I don't think complements his teammates, or vice versa. His teammates don't complement him. And at the end of the day, Hydra is your star player. This roster is built around him. So if you are not building a team that supports him and enables him, you failed as a GM. I also just don't think the Outtro look that good. We have some people who are really hot on them. I know BMB.
We got some Canadians in the chat.
We've got some Canadians putting them as number one. They suck. at
They're not.
Hardpoint. They just
listen, they got their
bad
win.
at
They
Hardpoint.
beat Subliners, you know? Like, are we going to have another year of Subliners just losing every goddamn series, though? Like, I don't know if I can handle that. It's just going to get boring after a while.
I know.
But I also don't think they're that good. I mean, I put them, I think, 5 at the start of the year. So, like, middle of the table, I think they'll sit there all year. I think they'll be more competitive than last year, for sure. But their hard point looks slightly improved, as opposed to, you know, starting off whatever. I think it was 0-11 or so, something like that last year.
They won the first one. They did win the first one. That was their only win, but they just don't look good. Like,
it doesn't look decisive by any means. And to beat Subliners then your weekend, it's like, okay, cool. Like, you guys did it. Nice, congratulations. Let's go. You did the same thing as London did. Exactly. Whatever. It's hard to look past that and kind of look past their scheduling as well. All right, moving on to week 2. I'm going to throw it out there. General predictions headed into the week. We got the schedules up, everything. Anybody going 2-0, 0-2? What do you think right off the rip?
I think Breach are going 2-0 again.
You think they're going 4-0 to start? I don't disagree with you. The scheduling is really
nice.
I think
the scheduling is nice. Like, they got over the initial hurdle.
Yeah,
exactly. That they had an initial hurdle which was going to be rough, and then we're looking at this week. They're against Subliners, easy win, and Gorillas, another easy win in my opinion.
Rokkr's going 2-0 for sure.
Rokkr is going 2-0.
Rokkr's going 4-0 as well, like, with an asterisk.
But easy win for them. And my big question mark is actually Surge. I'm worried they might go 0-2 again.
Really? That Ultra series is going to be interesting. I think they lose the first one for sure.
So that's what I mean. Like, I'm not. This is kind of my lukewarm. Like, I don't know, but my worry is I can see them going 0-2.
Yeah, listen, especially the way they played last week. Like, if you're gonna outslay and lose, it's not gonna go well for you. I'll say this. They're a concerning roster. I'll throw this one out there as well. Faze 2-0 this week. I feel like is a pretty light one, especially with what we're saying about Ultra. Ultra Legion, that's an easy schedule up ahead. I think Texas has a decent chance to go 2-0, but it's going to be a tough battle against the Thieves. We'll see how that one shakes out. I think that'll tell a lot about where both teams stand as well.
Yeah, I kind of looked at Texas. I looked at Texas and I looked at Thieves, and I was like, I don't know. That is, I have yet to see. I want to see how Texas does when they get pushed. As well as Thieves, to be fair.
Do Gorillas fall to the Subliners? That's the real question of the week. Before we hop into betting.
I don't know. That's a stay away from me. That's two rosters. That's like Arcides is stuck with, I think, a mediocre roster that he's elevating. And I think Subliners, like I said, are a poorly constructed roster. So, but could Hydra take over?
Ugly match. Yeah, Hydra could take over, but so could Hook, you know? But I feel like Hook is more likely to take over on land than he is on
Hook's
land.
not going to take over. You believe in Hook. I don't believe in him. So
the nuke. That's like, I do believe in the nuke.
Yeah.
All right, watch your mouth.
Nuke, yeah.
Okay, hopping into the betting. Let's get into it. Like Glove locks of the week. What do we got? I mean, I know you and I discussed a little bit ahead of the podcast, and unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, a lot of the things that we were saying were exactly the same, which is a huge problem because now I've got to switch my picks up and keep it.
No. You keep it. You keep it. I'll go first. I'll go first. I'll start off with my like. Basically, I'm just hammering minus 1.5s all week. I think there are some egregious odds. I'm going to leave you with the money line that we discussed.
Week 1 was really good for like turning the odds on their head to the point where like you're getting a lot of good value now.
You're getting some great value. I'm going to leave the money lines for you. I'm going to kick off with my like. I have one like. It's a day 3 Toronto Ultra over Surge at a minus 1.5. It's 2.75. The odds are just so good. It's like, I think these are two teams that are essentially even. There's a lot of parity there, I think, and the fact that you're getting 2.75 on one of them winning 3-1, I love that. I just think that's I like it. It's a like because I think there's more risk involved, so I'm not entirely sure that it's not guaranteed, but if it does happen, the 3-1 win I think is the most likely result, and 2.75 is so good. Do you have any likes?
I mean, of course I've got likes.
Give us your likes.
London Royal Ravens is coming out of the gate and beating Surge. And for some reason, Surge are still favorites after what we saw last week.
I know.
And even when they slay, they don't win. So if that tells you the story about anything, it's the Seattle Surge. And their inability to win Search and Destroy, which is going to cost them a lot. I think London is a better hardpoint team than LAG. So now you've already set yourself back even further, having lost that series. Additionally, one that I'm going to jump
on that upset is so good.
2.1 is so clean and cannot be ignored. I'll jump to another one as well. I think Atlanta Faze -1.5 over Toronto Ultra is a like as well. I would say if not lock.
That's a love.
It's a lock. I feel like it's a lock.
That's a love to me. I actually have that as a love. The -1.5. I mean, even a lock. It's a potential lock there, but yeah, that's a.
I mean,
that's
I think.
2.25.
Listen, I think by lock this week, and it's something that I don't entirely understand, but the odds are skewed really heavily against Optic Texas in the LA Thieves match, and I think the +1.5 there at 1.5 is like a ton of value. You're not going to get Optic Texas +1.5 against a lot of teams this entire year.
I actually really like the over 4.5 at 2.5.
I don't hate that. I that would be more of a like for me. I feel like there's a lot more risk on that. This series could get tilted on its head quickly. But the +1.5 is attractive in my opinion.
Okay, so you stole my one love at my Faze -1.5 over Ultra.
Sorry.
My other love is the Breach -1.5 over Subliners. I think that is just free money. -1.5 at 2.0 odds is just incredible. Subliners do not look good. Breach look incredible. Like I said, I think they're going 2-0 this week. It's just a great line there. -1.5, 2.0 there. And my lock is going to be Rokkr over Mutineers at -1.5 as well.
Yeah, I was about to say I love that one as well.
Dude, it is 1.9. Mutineers are the second worst team. Their games I saw for week 1 confirmed that they're a terrible team, and I just don't think they're going to do well. And I think the Rokkr are looking clean and looking pretty dominant. So getting paid out 1.9 for that.
Without saying too much, I actually don't think they're terrible. And I'll keep those thoughts for later on when I'm proven correct. But
yeah, I was like, you're going to keep those thoughts until it's either true or you're going to forget about those thoughts.
Yeah. You know, what I do with my time doesn't matter, all right? Okay. I'm here podcasting, whatever. I think they kept it close at points where they shouldn't have, or people didn't expect them to, which makes it... It's going to be an interesting year for them, to be honest. They're in for a tough situation. I'll tell you something I love, though, and it goes off of your Minnesota Rokkr play a little bit, but I love a little parlay on Minnesota Rokkr going -1.5 in both matches. And I think we get great odds there. I can't really stack it because I don't have an account with this site right now, so I would need to sign in, not to give away our sponsors or our books.
I think you would get at least a 3.5.
Yeah, you're gonna get somewhere around 3.5 if you stack those both -1.5. I think that's a really good parlay. Ton of value. Rokkr are favorites in both of these matches, but I think they're honestly undervalued in the way they're favorites on the money
massively.
line.
I think the -1.5, I think they're overlooking, and the best thing about it is that when you look at week 1, we had a lot of 3-1s. The majority, if you were betting -1.5 across a lot of these matches, you would have come out ahead. And so I just think when you're looking at, especially when you're looking at one team that is significantly better than the others. So obviously Rokkr 3-1ing Texas, that's a clear one team ahead of the other.
Result, yeah.
Like Thieves 3-1ing Legion, Rokkr 3-1ing Outtro, Ravens 3-0ing Subliners, Breach 3-1ing Surge. It's when a team is, I think, clearly in that top 5 bracket, facing off against a bottom 5 team, you are getting a 3-0 or 3-1, it seems, for the most part. It's when you're matching, the 3-2s come from the
bad teams,
worst
teams, and
bad teams. So we have Gorillas Surge 3-2, Mutineers Legion 3-2, Ravens Gorillas 3-2. I know we're kind of hot on Ravens, but they're still not let's not pretend that they're amazing.
I think there's a lot of mismatches this week, to your point. There's a lot of situations where you're going to end up with a 3-1. Now, going into last week, I don't think I would have said that, just not knowing what I know about the rosters. But, heading into this week, I feel pretty confident on that with, a ton of 3-1s across the board. I think you already shouted it out, but I'm going to throw it in there again. I think a lock this week is Breach -1.5 over Gorillas to end the weekend off. Realistically, outside of the Thieves Texas matchup, there's not a lot of games that I think will be close. But Breach over Gorillas, I feel like they're going to absolutely dominate LAG because they have the team play to support the slaying that they have in place, as opposed to
you could parlay those two. Breach 2-0, Breach -1.5 against Subliners and against Gorillas. You're getting 2.0 odds on each one. I think that gives you a 4.5 or a 5.
Yeah, so I think you're pushing good odds on that as well. I actually really like that. I'm not gonna There's a ton of value out there if you're better. So this is your week to lock it in, honestly, before odds start adjusting a little bit further to Modern Warfare 2 and to these new rosters. So really good week for you if you're a gambler. Nikki, do you have any final thoughts? Who's winning Major 1? I didn't get your prediction preseason, but because you weren't here last
Major
week.
1? At the moment, I actually think Breach.
You think Breach winning Major 1?
I like the way they're playing. I
think they're going to face some shortcomings on land. I also would like to...
but I like the way they're playing as a team.
I'm gonna throw out something that I'm really, really... I love to harp on this fact, but teams that are playing good search and destroy going into the Major face the pitfall of having their good search out there that people can watch and VOD review and look at and understand kind of what the strategy is in each round. Whereas you get a lot of teams that come into majors cold in search. They have lost a ton of maps, and then they'll get hot, win 12 searches in a row, and we're talking about them winning the major. So I think Breach faced an interesting hurdle there, but I don't disagree that they look good. It could be a Faze Major 1, honestly.
Could be. It could be.
I think it could be. They look really good. If Sim's your worst player in a series, I think that says a lot about your roster and Cellium's firing on all cylinders. So
right now, those are like my two clear front runners. I think they're the two teams that I think FaZe could be angry and wanting to win it all. I think this is a team game more than anything. I think this game, it's less about having one star player and it's more about having all four players just like clicking. And I think Breach are cut above everyone else in that.
Low time to kill means that everyone's killable, which means that you need to be able to trade your teammates. So similar to Cold War, where there was a high TTK, now we've got the opposite, which is, anybody could die at any second to a nade hitting you in the face or a flashbang or something like that, which is ridiculous. I think that about wraps it up. Kept it short, kept it sweet, of course. If you enjoyed the episode, please hit that subscribe button down below, hit the like, turn the notifications on if you feel so inclined to do so. Also, follow us on Twitter at BO3Network and join our Discord, which will be down in the description below as well, and in the comments section. We've been adding that here and there, so that people that want to comment some hate, whatever, or some love.
Let us know why we're right or wrong.
Yeah, I mean, feel free to shit on us. It doesn't matter to me. I'm still gonna come out here and say what I think, and I'm gonna do it next week. So, with that being said, we'll see you later, ladies and gentlemen. Peace out.
Bye, everyone.